Are you okay?
Yeah, just touching it makes me feel like I've got a whirlpool of emotions spiraling around inside me. I can't even begin to imagine what having all 7 rings would do to someone. It might even open the gates of hell.
Throughout the 2000s, in a lot of ways, Nintendo helped carry Sonic. After Sega threw their towel in the console market, that was covered in blood, sweat, and regret, it's not like Nintendo had a lot of exclusive Sonic games. Usually that was on handheld. All of the mainline Sonic games that came out on the GameCube were probably the best versions of those games. The GBA, DS, and Wii is where we got some genuine exclusive Sonic games. Nowadays, everything is just becoming more multi-platform, but back then, the competition was real and nasty.
Hey, plumber boy, mustache man, your worst nightmare has arrived.
Not really the type of advertising you would see in the game market nowadays. Pretty recently, they did reference this in a new commercial. However, compared to what they've done before, that felt pretty damn tame. I mean, they even felt like they had to blur the gameplay footage. All I'm saying is if Nintendo did not help out Sega, then Sonic could have made the same life choices as Crash Bandicoot, or fucking Banjo-Kazooie, holy shit. And even though a good chunk of these are spin-offs, the Wii used to have colors held hostage for a bit, until it was finally let go in 2021. But what about those other Sonic games that Sega just left rotting in the dust? I actually did play one of these as a kid. I remember booting the game up and hearing that theme song for the first time. Thinking, okay, this is a good start. Then you get to the animated part in the beginning, which looks phenomenal, but then you hear okay, well after that part, you get to the main menu, and once you get to the part where you can select a stage, and when you finish a stage, what? When you beat the game, you're gonna memorize this song by heart. But before we get to that point of the game, let me talk about the game's development. The game first started as a port of Sonic 2006 for the Wii, but eventually Sega just said fuck that, and started working on something completely original, because they didn't want to waste too much time trying to get this game out on the Wii. If I had to use my little gamer brain to try to predict what the game would be like, I feel like it would be pretty comparable to Sonic Unleashed for the Wii, where in some areas the game would be a bit of a downgrade. I accept the fact that 2006 on the Wii is just an atrocity waiting to happen, but part of me is morbidly curious to see what it would look like. The project went by a couple of names, but it was mainly known as Sonic Wildfire, and despite the Wildfire tag being a pretty odd inclusion, Sega actually preferred this name. Luckily for us, they couldn't get the legal rights or whatever the hell, because Secret Rings is a much better name overall. Sonic and the Secret Rings is the first Sonic game to have come out on the Wii, and it was also the first of the storybook games. The first half. I like seeing stories getting spoofed in other media, like how Secret Rings is based on Arabian Nights. You see Tails and Knuckles appear in the game, but they're not actually Tails and Knuckles, they're Alibaba and Sinbad. The game does introduce some new characters, but honestly, the only ones that really matter are Shara and Eraser Jin, who's also apparently the genie from Aladdin. So I guess you could say he's not really original, but the game transforms him into the villain, so I'll let it slide.
If truly free, be stopped never through all that's happening.
The game starts with Sonic waking up in the Book of Arabian Nights, and he's told by Shara that Eraser Jin is set out to take over Arabian Nights using the power of the 7 Chaos Rings. Even though Shara is kind of like Navi from Ocarina of Time, but worse. I don't really hate either of these characters, I just think they could have been done better. Like, all that Eraser Jin really does is just pops up out of nowhere to tell Sonic, "Bring me the rings!" I think the best thing about these characters is the concept art. The art style looks really nice, and I think Shara's outfit actually looks cooler compared to what she had in the game, but Sega definitely would not get away with her skirt being see-through in the back. And who can forget Eraser Jin's sun nipples? Apart from the designs being a little too mature for a family audience, I wish we could have had them for at least the storybook cutscenes. I mean, shit, that could have made the game a bit more interesting, because the only thing interesting about the game is the controls. Wanna know why? They don't fucking work. The game's controls was the biggest thing that made me not really want to play the game anymore. You literally have to tilt and steer the Wiimote like it's goddamn Mario Kart Wii. Why complicate things when there's a perfectly good D-pad on the controller? But that's for the time and speed break. What that means is, if Sonic can collect enough pearls throughout the gameplay, he can perform either a time break, which slows down time, or a speed break, which boosts him through a stage. These mechanics could have made the gameplay a bit more strategic. However, none of these mechanics appealed to me because they just weren't fun. With Time Break, Sonic goes from being the fastest thing alive to the slowest thing in fucking existence. And Speed Break just makes you bump into every possible object in the way. And the homing attack. Jolting the Wiimote forward constantly is so tiresome because of how much you have to do it. And I hate these parts where you have to tilt the Wiimote to creep along the edges. It just adds more strain to your wrists. If only there was another attack you could do, because doing the homing attack gets so repetitive. But no, they just had to add a fucking level up system, you know, to an auto runner. I appreciate the game trying to be more complex and innovative by adding something like this, but it just falls flat on its face while trying to do it. Every moveset you can unlock just makes the levels easier to play, and that's it. They should have done something to spice up the gameplay. And I'm sorry, giving Sonic 5 more extra rings and the ability to do a little bit of a boost in the beginning of a level does not count. And speaking of these cheap ass levels, the game has 7 main areas, but within the main areas, there's a number of missions you have to play through over and over. Usually the first mission will be like a classic Sonic get to the goal type of level, but after that, you gotta replay the level doing different tedious little fuck-ass tasks. They either go on for a long time, or they're short as hell. Uhu the Wind Genie will race you in head-to-head missions. He doesn't pop up in the story or anything like that whatsoever. Despite being like the best fit missions for a Sonic game, if you don't pimp out Sonic's speed stats, then this little blue bitch ball just cheeses the race. In hands off, all you have to do is finish the level with 0 rings in your inventory. So you have the option of either getting through the level without touching a ring whatsoever, or you can collect some of the rings and use them to damage boost throughout the level. This is actually a really nice way to spice up the ring mechanic. Unfortunately, all of these levels suck. If you can't lose your rings before you get to the goal, then you have to restart the whole level from the beginning. No pearls is the same idea, except the consequence is that even if you touch a pearl, then you have to restart the whole mission. All I can say about that one is it's really frustrating. The time limit missions are called Beat the Clock, and the collect ring missions are called Collect Rings. The goal of Rampage is to defeat a specific number of enemies. Just pretend I'm copying and pasting what I said about the homing attack earlier right here. If you're a fan of how repetitive attacking the enemies are, then maybe you'll enjoy this mode, but as for me, no. I will say though, I do like the concept of Chain of Rings. You have to collect a certain amount of rings or else your counter will reset. The point of Perfect Challenge is to get to the end of the goal without getting hit whatsoever, no matter how many rings you have. Stealth Attack is the polar opposite of Rampage, where the goal is not to kill any enemy whatsoever. A lot of these mission ideas aren't stupid, they just would have been better off in a game that wasn't an auto runner where controlling Sonic is such a hassle. The only kind of mission that I feel like would fit for an auto runner is Beat the Clock.
Hi there, I'm Chi.
Special challenges have a really weird name. The point of these missions is to link what's happening in the story, but when you have shit called Don't Break the Jars, Break 5 Jars, it sure sounds special, huh? Having all of these individual missions is something that Sonic's done in other games. However, in Secret Rings, it feels really dragged out. Just take a game like Sonic Generations, for example. Only about a third of that game is replaying the same levels you've already played over and over, and if that seems like a pretty big number, then you don't want to know what Secret Rings has. What does that mean? Over half of the game is just stupid bullshit. And there's even more. The prologue serves more as a tutorial area where you learn how to use abilities you unlock. The first area, Sand Oasis, is slightly better than the prologue. Just slightly though, because it has so little to offer. They could have made Sand Oasis the tutorial area. You find King Shahryar after mistaking him for Eggman, and Eraser Jin commands a fucking pterosaur to kidnap him. You do not want to be on that guy's shit list. At the end of Sand Oasis, you fight the Sand Scorpion. This boss to me has a really fucking weird design. I can't tell if this is a mouth or its butthole has teeth. In order to beat the boss, you have to wait until the sand scorpion gets its little arm thing stuck in the sand, and then parry up all of its eyes to hit the main eyeball. And keep in mind, every time Sonic loses his momentum, it gets really hard to even start the parry. I think the idea of a dinosaur themed level is really cool, but that coolness will fade away shortly. Unless the game developers thought it was cool to add fucking obstacles you can't see. And whatever you do, don't lose momentum at this part, because the Triceratops will just keep ramming right into you. And there's even this dinosaur that uses its tail to attack you from behind again. Don't even get me started on the goddamn dinosaur eggs. Collecting these eggs makes me feel like I'm playing a collectathon, which is something you don't want to do for a freaking auto runner game. So this whole mission is a non-stop loop of running around this entire level just to find out where each egg goes. If you get hit by an enemy or take damage, you lose the egg. And you know what makes it even better? Every time you die, the eggs and nests switch places, making you have to play through the same fucking level even more. Why the hell do you have to do this for the story? It's not like saving these eggs is gonna prevent their inevitable extinction. And on top of that, why are there dinosaurs in the game if it's based off of Arabian Nights, which didn't feature any dinosaurs whatsoever? I usually wouldn't care about that kind of crap because it's just a video game. However, this egg level genuinely made me really upset, so this whole jungle and all the dinosaurs can burn in hell for all I care. Evil Foundry only has like one playable mission, and then you get booted to the next area, Levitated Ruin. This might be a slight nitpick, but I really hate how this game is structured. Every time you beat a mission in the game, and guess what happens every time that happens? You get booted to the level select screen and you have to select another mission. Why couldn't the game just naturally progress like, I don't know, other previous Sonic games? And I know that a lot of games don't really do that too. I just think it's really dumb when a game has to frequently tell you over and over that you've unlocked another mission, as if you weren't aware. Oh well, anyways, when you get to the Ifrit Golem, Shara says,
Be careful. The Ifrit is so tiny.
what? Oh wait, you know, that kind of makes sense. The controls of this boss fight are so disorienting. You have to tilt the Wiimote side to side while Sonic is moving two-dimensionally, so it's more like moving him up and down. It's like you gotta turn your whole body sideways just to play this fucking boss fight. And going backwards is such a pain to do. And these barrels right here, yeah, there's nothing you can really do about them, so hopefully you have enough fucking rings to take them. I'm not kidding. After I beat this boss fight, I actually had to take a break because of how the fucking game controls. I mean, that's cool, right? Isn't that such a great thing? You know, when the game literally strains your wrists? Now, as for the actual area of Evil Foundry, I think the game has pretty alright graphics, but the design of Evil Foundry looks pretty mellow and bland. Levitated Ruin takes place in the sky, which is pretty interesting, but the wind that keeps pushing you back is really annoying. Literally some Mario 2 lost level shit. Getting to this gate before it closes is like trying to do a race tied to a tree. If I were to genuinely compare this to Mario 2, this might be worse. Yet again, bullshit's just being thrown at you and all you can do is take it because of these fuck-ass controls. In this mission where you have to save Sinbad Knuckles, you have to make so many precise movements that, unlike being a fun, memorable game like Wii Sports, this game will torture the shit out of your grandparents. I'd literally rather beat my own testicles with a shoe than find Sinbad in this level. There's even a mission where all you do is kill one enemy. I am dead serious. All you do is run on the spring, swing on this rope, and bam. If this doesn't say they ran out of ideas, then I don't know what does. Not to mention that the game's physics are so busted that I could glitch myself out of this locked room. Sweet. There's no way to get back in. Pirate Storm is a bit gloomier, but I don't really mind it. And a pirate level actually fits better for an Arabian Nights themed game, especially compared to Dinosaur Island over here. And hey, Sonic surfing during D-Day weather. Here's a moment that isn't really bad, but I just thought was pretty interesting. At this part of the game, I accidentally beat this level because I didn't know there was a silver ring behind me when I backed up at this certain moment. I don't know, I thought that was really weird. And on top of that, this collect 0 ring mission was so fucking mean. Because at the very end, if you touch any of these rings, which is really easy to do, you have to restart all the way from the beginning. The final boss of this area is Captain Behemoth. I can't take this guy seriously, mainly because it kind of looks like he's running away from Sonic out of fear, and it doesn't help even Shara feels bad for him. I think this dude would have been more appropriate as like a mini boss. Even though I'm not a massive fan of the Scorpion's design, it looks more like a boss. Wait, this isn't even a boss fight. It's an edging sesh. Now it all makes sense. If you think that skeleton dome is a snow level, it isn't. The dust is actually particles of bone that's scattered across the entire area. So yeah, Sonic is constantly breathing in bone powder, in case you're wondering. This is one of the weird rare levels that have unique enemies. Throughout the entirety of the game, there's just these generic looking bad guys. And the only difference is this one breathes fire and this one doesn't. Meanwhile, Levitated Ruin and Skeleton Dome are the only levels in the game to have their own unique enemies. In Levitated Ruin, there's gargoyles that turn you into stone, and in Skeleton Dome, there's these skeleton enemies that are just pretty much like dry bones from Super Mario. I don't know, part of me thinks it's kind of odd that these are the only levels that have unique enemies. I know that the dinosaur level technically does have dinosaurs, but you can't really kill them like you can with normal enemies, and usually they're just used as like platforms you can crawl on and jump on and shit. I mean, would it kill them to add like cavemen or something at least to this level? But hey, at least we got the gargoyles. What's with all these skeletons? What is this, dude? Actually, this stage ain't so bad. Once you flip all the switches, then the enemies all rise up and you can rack up your kills. Despite this stage being somewhat fun, it's honestly kinda ruined because of the fact Sonic keeps repeating this shit so many times.
Wow, this place is huge.
So this is why they call it the Skeleton Dome.
This place is huge.
So this is why they call it the Skeleton Dome. So this is why they call it the Skeleton Dome. So this is why they call it the Skeleton Dome. So this is why they call it the Skeleton Dome.
Wow, this place is huge.
Holy shit, I thought he was gonna say it again. You help out King Solomon by finding all 5 of his bones. This level is pretty similar to the dinosaur egg mission, but it works a lot better. Although this part with the spike balls is really tricky. Right before you reach Night Palace, it plays the same CGI cutscene from the beginning of the game. Call this a weird nitpick all you want. I think it's really stupid that they play this again during the game. I can understand why they would do this for the beginning right before you boot up the game. We've already seen it by this point, unless you've like skipped it or something. They should have just redone this scene as the storybook aesthetic. Other than that, Night Palace is a pretty cool area. I think the only annoyance I had was constantly respawning in this room after my rings kept deflating. Since this is the last area, you actually fight a Razor Jin. At this part right here, his attack pattern is really hard to get down. You have to do a homing attack at a very specific time. You can dodge his sword attacks pretty easily, and overall, I'd say it's a pretty good boss fight. Probably even the best boss fight in the whole game. After you beat a Razor Jin, he cries like a little baby and runs behind a door, and then they roll the credits. What? That's it? That's the whole game? Well, remember when I said the mission order was a big jumble fuck? All you gotta do is go back to the level select screen and select the last mission. Come on, this is the end of the game. Why is it when you get 90% through the game, you get booted out to the fucking credits? And then the game literally explains to you that you need all 7 of the rings to open the door. Like, the picture wasn't enough to let the fucking audience know. And at this point of the game, you already have all 7 of the rings, so all of this is really unnecessary. So after you get through all of that, Sonic and Shara are able to go through the door, and Razor Jin's all like, "Yes, you finally brought me all the rings." And he manipulates Shara into backstabbing Sonic. When Sonic realizes this, he rubs his ring to stun her.
I'm sorry. I have no choice. I just want to be back with him.
No! As Genie of the Ring, I command you! Do what you truly think is right!
So this is why they call it the Skeleton Dome.
Razor Jin tries to kill Sonic, but he ends up killing Shara instead. And even with Sonic trying to wish her back to life, she just vanishes away. And as she vanishes away, Razor Jin turns into an incomplete monster called Alflela Wellela. This is the actual final boss fight of the whole game. And at the same time, Sonic uses Shara's power and the power of the Chaos Rings to become evil and freaky Sonic. Hands down, the most batshit moment in the whole game. Not that it makes the story or the game any better, I just found all this shit entertaining. Before the fight even begins, Shower's voice appears in Sonic's head to tell him about using the Wii Remote. So as much as you'd probably want to strangle your Wiimote by the time you're at this point of the game, the Wiimote is considered canon to the Secret Rings story. But come on now, that little controller that looks like a dildo. This boss fight really tries to cram speed break and time break down your throat to avoid and reflect enemy attacks. In contrast to the last boss fight, this boss fight might be the worst one in the whole game. Time break barely helps you. I ended up really not even using it that much. And you have to use speed break to actually attack the boss. And you want to know what makes this all even better? Guess what song is playing? You probably know by this point. If you're able to defeat the boss, Sonic reveals that he had a Razor's lamp shoved up his ass the whole time, and he uses it to wish everything back to normal. I like how Sonic just plops right on the throne so confidently. It's something you know he would do. And when Eraser Jin is finally gone for good, Shara starts crying, and I don't really know why. It was implied that Shara and Eraser Jin were in a relationship, but I still don't understand why, even after he literally fucking killed her. So what does Sonic do to help her out? He wishes for a mountain of handkerchiefs, and then the credits roll. Then after you watch the credits, Shara does a wrap-up explanation where, you know, Sonic goes home, yada yada yada, happily ever after, and then... oh my god. This is literally the third time you see credits. Are the developers that proud that they made a pile of dog shit? I mean, if you're gonna play credits 3 goddamn times in a row, then at least give people an option to fucking skip them. After the third credits though, you watch probably my favorite cutscene in the game. This game just took a shit all over Aladdin's face. Another thing too is that there's even more missions you can unlock to play. And is it worth it to play the rest of the missions? No. No it isn't.
Go ahead. Put your feet in my shoes.
There's some extra stuff the developers so generously bequeathed, like the special book that has various medals, cutscenes, and information about characters. Captain Behemoth and Alpha Layla Walayla have in-game information, while the others just kind of feel like what developers wanted to add as trivia. The name Eraser is a combination of eraser and razor. And not only is the Sand Scorpion the first boss that was made, they didn't even know where to fucking put it. I think that perfectly shows how clueless the designers felt probably making this game. And if you think that sounds a little mean, I don't care! The Ifrit golem is really weird. It says, the Ifrit is mixed with discarded machinery. Look closely in the cauldron and you'll see a rubber ducky in the concept art. The most interesting mode that they have in the game is Party Mode.
What? It isn't my birthday.
I'm pretty sure the developers saw how popular the casual gaming market was for the Wii with Wii Sports, and decided to take advantage of it by making another Mario Party clone. But I guess they didn't have the scrotes to make it a standalone game, because they bundled it with Secret Rings almost secretly. The Party Mode is just what you would expect from a generic Wii minigame collection. The minigames are barely functional and not really creative whatsoever. How many logs can you chop? How many pegs can you hammer in? Don't fall in the waterfall! By the way, fuck these fucking boat controls. I thought a couple of minigames weren't that bad, but they're just really annoying to control and play. The party mode has 5 game modes that you can play. First is Tournament Palace, where you play one-on-one minigames, and the winners are pitted against each other. This is like the perfect mode for multiplayer, because if you play this game mode by yourself, you're gonna be watching computers play minigames, and that's it. All you can do is just watch. Even though it's pretty generic looking, at least Treasure Hunt has an actual board you can play on. You move your way around to find which treasure box has the most wanted treasure, and the whole thing is pretty much just one big memorization game. If it were a choice by gamble, you can make it into a fun drinking game with friends, where the player would have to like take a shot after they landed on the wrong treasure box or something. Wait a second, if you land on this pink space, then you can shuffle all the treasure around. I think I'm getting some ideas. Although this game mode is a bit bland, I can at least say this is better than Tournament Palace. But if you don't like board games, then maybe Pirates Coast is more your style. Instead of the board game layout, you have to race each other on a boat to be the winner, and whoever does better at the mini games will get more spaces ahead. This could have been a nice alternative if the ships didn't move so slow for my taste. Hey, at least you can skip the boat cutscenes if you want, but wouldn't it be better if you didn't have to skip content that they put in the game? World Library just lets you choose what minigame you want to play. And finally, there's Genie's Lair, which might be the shittiest part of party mode. So picture this, you're all locked in a prison room, and whoever wins a minigame gets to open a treasure chest and collect coins. That's all you do. Unless you're the winner of the minigame, you literally don't do anything but sit there and just wait for the next minigame pretty much. To me, Genie's Lair is literally like scratching a lottery ticket. At least with Treasure Hunt, the point of switching all the treasures around is just to fuck with your friends. In Genie's Lair, you can open as many chests as you want, but if you open one with a trap, then you lose everything. Look, even if this playstyle does have its fans, it still sucks that you can't do anything unless you win one of these stupid ass mini games. Overall, the party mode really has nothing to it. I mean, if you're playing with your friends, then you can have a fun time, but I remember having fun playing Hong Kong 97 with my friends. As much as I've said about how horrible this game is, I do see somewhat of a foundation that could have made this a cool and unique game. Shit, even the party mode has some things I can admire. It lets you play as Shadow, Silver, Cream, and Blaze, who weren't even in the original game and have to be unlocked by collecting all of these red rings, which means you're gonna have to play the game more. I guess the more generalized way of describing this game's flaw is that it does more bad than good. If Sega were to re-release this game nowadays just straight up how it was for like any fucking price, then that would be shocking to me. Even if they remove the motion control crap, it's still not really that great of a game. But that hasn't stopped fans from trying. In 2024, a user known as KumaPaws on YouTube put out a demo for a remake of Secret Rings that updates the game and makes it playable for PC. And as of now, you can play all the way up to Skeleton Dome. Listen, if you're a fan of Secret Rings, try playing this with a real controller and go back to that motion crap, okay? Project Reignition is the most functional and best way you can play the game in general right now. I mean, check out my speedrun of the most ridiculous mission in this game. And it wouldn't be possible without this remake. This might be the only way Secret Rings will ever get a remake, and you know what? I think that might be for the better. Like I said earlier, if Sega were to do this and charge you money, that would be super weird, given how little of anything good this game has to offer. I just think it makes more sense to have something like Project Reignition, which preserves the game in the best way it can be. Honestly, a part of me feels a bit strange because for the longest time, I thought Secret Rings, based on my childhood experience, was the worst Sonic game of all time, but after giving it a good second look, all of the missed potential makes me feel kinda sad. If it weren't for the fact that this game is a half-baked experience pulled down by motion controls to meet a specific deadline, then this could have been a pretty okay game, or even good if it's lucky, and maybe I would have gotten farther in it as a child. As an adult, I don't really think this is the worst Sonic game of all time. Definitely like one of the top 5. And probably the worst Sonic game I've ever played in my childhood. Yeah, even worse than 06. And as for its sequel, Sonic and the Black Knight, I've never played that as a kid. Deadass, my only experience with this game was watching the cutscenes on YouTube of Sonic licking the chili sauce off his fingers in that one part, or whatever the fuck, I don't really remember. From what I've heard, this game is actually a bit of a hidden gem, but unfortunately, I'm gonna have to save that story for another time, so stay tuned when I do that. In like 50 years.